Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to paint watercolor cosmos. Cosmos are one of the birth month flowers for the month of October, and I cannot wait to show you how to paint this beautiful flower. First, I'm starting with a piece of Arches 140 pound cold press watercolor paper. I will be using some round brushes. You can use a size 10 or a size 4 round brush. And then I have my limited palette of watercolors. This is cad yellow, magenta, cerulean, indigo, and sap green. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to start with my size 10 round brush, filling it with water, picking up my magenta, and then adding a bit of cad yellow to it until I get a nice deep peachy pink color. For these flowers, I'm going to use a larger brush that holds a lot of water and pigment, and I can use the shape of my size 10 round brush to create these very simple shapes for the cosmos. So cosmos have a really rugged, ridged edge to the petal, and I like to think of them as like a triangular shape. You know, everything's coming to a point toward the center, and then as I float my stroke out to the edge, it can be a little bit rough. I'm bringing all of these petals together, leaving the center open so that I can add the center and the pink won't get in the way. While the petals are still wet, I'm adding magenta straight from my palette to the bottom of the petals around the center to create a nice wet into wet blend that gives a lot of dimension. Now, I started with kind of a deep medium value of my peachy pink, and so I'm rinsing my brush, tapping it on the paper towel, and lifting some of the color out on the edges of my petal to give a little bit more dimension and interest to my petals, so I have more of a light, medium, and dark value within my flower. And now I'm going to let it dry. Going to this flower up here at the top, I'm doing the same thing, creating the rough edged petals, bringing it to a tip toward the center, and leaving the center open. I can change the shape and the direction of my petals to make this one look a little bit more flat, like we are seeing it more from the side. So the center is more of an oval than a circle. Same thing, I am tapping straight pure magenta into the bottom of the petals around the center, rinsing my brush, tapping it on a paper towel, and lifting some of the color out on the edges so that we have a lot of dimension and interest. Now I'm picking up my cad yellow straight from the palette, tapping that into the centers to create a textured look, while also leaving a bit of white space around the center yellow color as well. Going back to our peachy pink color, I'm going to create a rough circular shape for a bud over here on the upper right, placing that color and then lifting some of it out to once again get some dimension, and then we'll let it dry. We can add more layers to it later. For the greenery, I am using cad yellow mixed with a bit of indigo to get a nice deep green that is still warm and feels bright. I am also still using my size 10 round brush. You can totally switch to your size 4, but I'm just using the very tip with very light pressure to get simple, thin stems that are connecting from the flowers down toward the bottom of the paper. The buds, I'm using the shape of my round brush, my size 10, to push down just slightly to get these nice spiky leaves that are kind of hugging the petals. And then my favorite thing to paint with cosmos are these really rough, wild leaves, because cosmos are a type of wildflower, and so you can use the shape of the size 10 to really make these quick strokes where you add a little bit more pressure, and you can even scribble the strokes, but it makes it really easy to paint these leaves when you rely a lot on the size of the brush, the shape of the brush, to just kind of push down and make this interesting pattern. So I start with a little bit of a vein in the center and then have all of those strokes coming down into that vein. Adding a bit of indigo into my green mixture, I can tap this deeper green for shadow into my greenery, especially while it's still wet, to get a bit of a nice softer blend without too many hard lines. It's really hard to add dimension in greenery because it can be such a flat subject, especially when we're doing it in a loose way. So being able to add a deeper green while everything is still wet is a really nice effect. Here I'm picking up magenta, indigo, and a little bit of my sap green to have a really deep purpley pink color that I add around the centers to add contrast and to make everything pop. I'm adding a bit of sap green because it is magenta's complement, and so it helps make the magenta be really moody if it's added in little bits. Adding a bit of water to this deeper color, I can also add a few lines of interest around the bud as well. So deepening the contrast around the centers of both of the open flowers, but a few lines will give us the hint of folded petals at the bud. Now, picking up one of our more peachier pink washes we had on our palette, I'm doing a quick swipe, very quick, very rough. I'm trying not to think about it too much at the end of some of our petals on the open flowers, and it's going to make it look like some of these petal tips are flipped up and facing us and have a bit of shadow. So it's a really nice added effect, and then I'm popping some of this color around the flower in general to add a bit of texture, dimension, and interest. Now I'm writing October and Cosmos at the bottom of my paper since I am doing this for a monthly flower series, but there is never a wrong time to paint Cosmos. I hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you for painting with me today. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.